Okay, so we're getting ready to actually record the vocal. So I go into the interface software, the app, and I'm connecting the microphone to the input 1 of the interface. So I gotta make sure this interface is selected to receive mic signal. It's gonna be a condenser mic, which requires 48 volt phantom power. So I turn this on here, and here is where I set the levels of my microphone. I can use a high pass filter or a low cut filter or a pad or a phase invert. I don't need phase invert. Pad is only if the sound source is really loud, which for vocals usually isn't. And I will not use the low cut because I'd rather choose that during the mixdown process. I will capture the full bandwidth spectrum of the audio. And since this interface has only 2 inputs, 1 and 2, when I go back to the software, to Pro Tools, I select input 1 for each one of my 4 vocal tracks that I open to record vocals. Down the road, we're gonna create more tracks to to open more voices and record more vocal notes. But as of now, we have 4 tracks open with all selected to input 1, which is hardwired coming straight from the input 1 from the interface. And that's it. We will be recording vocals, and see you there. Bye bye. Okay, ready to record some vocals?
I am ready to record some vocals. So we're going to do the lead part of the verse for Steaming Hearts.
How is the sound in your headphones for you?
It's good.
Good?
Yeah, I can hear myself and I can hear the track just loud enough that I can sing over it.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right.
I can't keep on going on like everything's okay. If you wanna keep me, you gotta change your way. I've done all I can do to see the diamond in the rough, and now I've had enough.
So it's important to notice this interface has a direct monitoring feature, but I am monitoring through Pro Tools, so we want to mute the direct monitoring so we don't have 2 of Cheryl's voices, together with different timings or different sample lock positions. So some people like to monitor through the interface itself because then you have 0 latency monitoring. But since the processing in the system is pretty intense, pretty high, I'm muting the actual direct monitoring and doing the monitoring through the software itself.
So I'm recording the verse right now, and what I generally like to do is, besides being warmed up vocally anyway, I do a couple of vocal warm-ups before I start. I like to do the verses all together, the first verse, second verse, if there's a third verse, because they're sitting in the same place in my voice generally. There is usually an arc and there's a build, but the choruses for me, the way I write, are so much bigger and so much more different vocally that I like to sort of hang out in one place, because then once I go to a chorus, my voice is in a different space. At the same time, if you want to do all the verses first, make sure your voice isn't exhausted at the end of that you don't have energy left and you're sort of feeling raw by the time you get to the choruses. So there's a little bit of balance, and you have to know your voice and know what the energy of the song is before you can actually decide the order of what you're going to do. So for this particular song, I did all the verses first, and then I go to the choruses and just sort of bang out each chorus. Some people like to copy and paste choruses, and that's definitely something that's common in pop songs when everything's really tight. I like to do a different performance for each chorus. You just get a little bit of different inflection. Background vocals, I usually do copy and pasting just because they're so extensive, which you'll see in a moment. So let's move on to the chorus.
Okay, so I'm gonna create now some tracks for the chorus that we're gonna record with Cheryl. I had saved here 4 tracks for the verse. I could use these tracks, but I like to keep things, you know, more organized, so it's easier to refer back to them and when you're mixing. So I'm gonna create here 4 tracks for her chorus, and I'm gonna call C1, C2, C3, and C4.
I will get over this, over so fast. I may cry through the night till my devil's gone at last. This steaming heart will cool and melt into the past.
How was that for you?
That's good.
Can you hear yourself well still?
Uh-huh.
Moving on?
Yeah, we can. You want to double that now?
Yeah. Would you? How do you like to double it? Do you like to keep hearing the first one?
Yeah.
I will get over this, over so fast. I may cry through the night till my devil's gone at last. This steaming heart will cool and melt into the past.
Okay, so we now have 2 tracks. I tend to, as I build, you know, stacks, I tend to lower a little bit of the level of the first ones, leaving only the one she's singing, you know, just, you know, a couple of dB. Just because if we build too many tracks on top of each other, we get too much energy, and the actual song track starts, you know, sounding too much back further back. So it's just something I do.
I will get over this, over so fast. I may cry through the night till my devil's gone at last. This steaming heart will cool and melt into the past.
So one thing Cheryl is actually showing here is that, you know, it's sometimes important to double tracks even though they're the same voice, the same note, because it creates a contrast. It builds the song up towards, you know, a higher, more energetic level if you compare where the song comes from with the single vocal track on the verse.